Hello, friends, and you are our friends, and welcome to this evening's Talking Town. We have had gremlins in the system, we have had microphone malfunctions, we have had people not getting links. It's all go here in the no spin zone. But welcome, my friends. I'm glad you could join us to a jam-packed, despite the fact the club haven't actually signed anybody. It is a jam-packed show, and I am, of course, joined by the two regulars, in which we'll get into very shortly. You can, of course, if you haven't got time to hang around, catch this podcast at a later date on all good podcast platforms. Just search Talking Town ITFC podcast. So this is the No Spin Zone, as always, and I'm your host, Martin H. Jump, and you can find me at HDR Martin. I will welcome in one member of the team. He is currently in the blue room ordering his Shiraz as we speak. It's, of course, the media mogul, the man that's got many, many names in that little black book, Matt Phillips. How are we doing?
Good, thanks. I'm all good. I've had many battles this week, and not just online. Been besieged by seagulls, not Brighton fans, actual feathered ones. On a bit Sopranos on me. So I've done what any self-respecting mafioso would do. I've got myself a decoy owl on the roof. It's working wonders, man. It's working wonders.
Oh,
I'm all good.
I'm all good. Have you ever heard such first world problems? He's got himself a... I've heard it all. And you have been batting off people this week. We'll get into that a bit later on, maybe. But how are you feeling,
mate? Part and parcel.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good. I'm raring to go. I'm a bit miffed on missing Antiques Roadshow, but don't worry.
I did toy with an Antiques Roadshow themed intro, but I decided against it. Just because I didn't want to upset people. But we'll get into that a bit later on. Obviously, the club's not signed anybody yet. There's a number of issues, number of things to get through, but signings aren't one of them. And I can see Richard Moss, the cruncher, he keeps coming into the blue room and he keeps coming out of the blue room. Are you going to stay in the blue room now, Richard, or do you want to come on the podcast? Shall we let the crunch? This is like pantomime, isn't it? Shall we let the cruncher in?
Cruncher.
He's gone again. He's gone again. So the big news this week is the salary cap, which we will cover. We have got the Paul Lambert review. Yeah. We have got what has got your goat this week. We have got Danny Graham. We have got a jam-packed show. Let's tell you what. Let's start with the pressing news today. Okay, shall we start with Danny Graham? Yes or no?
It's a funny one, that, isn't it? He was a name that came to mind, actually, when we were talking about maybe getting a striker in. I thought he might be one that would be floating around a little bit. But in light of the news we've had recently, what kind of salary is he going to command? Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's 34, not far off 35, I don't think. I mean, is that really now we know we're going to be restricted on payments of wages, is that really the market we should be looking in? Maybe we should be looking elsewhere. It's annoying that he's going to be counting towards our 2.5 million ceiling, isn't it?
Well, this is it. And obviously we'll get into that when we come to the salary cap issue. We'll cover that a little bit more in detail. But I can see Luke Penning has instantly got involved. He wants the link. The link is coming your way.
What's in?
He wants in.
Good
Guys,
Lord.
If you want in on this podcast, if you want less of Matt, less of Rich, maybe you want less of me, you just need to ask for the link and you can come on either via audio or via a visual link, or of course leave your comment in the comment section where we will pick it up and it will be shown on screen, of course, if it's polite to do so, especially before 9 o'clock. So I will just send Luke the link in a second. But first of all, so you're saying yes. Am I getting that right, Matt? You're saying yes to Danny Graham?
No, I wouldn't. No, not really. I mean, I think it'd be good to have around the place, but now we know we're on this ceiling. I'm not sure it's a great idea. He was good at Watford, but again, he's one of these players that was good a little while ago. Like Will Keane was good a while ago, young player of the year at Manchester United. Comes to us, got knackered knee. So I just wonder if we should look at someone who's on the upward curve of their career rather than on the downward slide a little bit.
I think the modern day transfer market question is: would Brentford sign Danny Graham? And I don't think the answer is yes. And I think there's a reason for. I think there's a reason for that, and I think the salary cap, once again, raises that issue. And like I say, we'll get into that a little bit in a little bit more detail shortly. But as someone who says here, I think it was Sid Driver 5 years ago, certainly so. Yeah, Sid Driver. There we go. Danny Graham 5 years ago. Yes, without a doubt. I mean, when he played for Blackburn, he tore us apart a little bit. But
well, that's where the link is coming, isn't it? Because Lambert bought him in on loan when he was the Blackburn gaffer. I don't know if people are putting two and two together there a little bit. I don't.
Yeah,
but he's been linked to Sunderland as well, which is one of his old places, isn't it? One of his old clubs was Sunderland.
Yeah, and I think somebody has also said that he won't move down south. We've got to forget Graham. Would rather Falami or Morris. Andy Gray, ITFC. I have to agree with that, actually. But actually, in the broader context, well, no, but in the broader context of the salary cap, Matt, it's Aaron Drinan now actually that has jumped Morris and Falami, because we're paying Drinan as a senior player, so he counts against the cap. Okay, so when you're weighing
did he
up,
do?
He didn't do that well. I
mean, he didn't do Ayr United. He went on loan, didn't he? He went on loan to Ayr United last season.
Yeah, I mean, friends of yours love.
Tell us, Luke will tell us.
Yeah, Luke will tell us. But friends of yours love Aaron Drinan. Friends of yours on Twitter love Aaron Drinan. But I'm not so keen. I'm not so keen. Cruncher, I'm going to introduce Cruncher now, Matt.
Is he here?
I think he is.
Bring the big man in.
He can come off the naughty step. Cruncher.
I've been waiting for 3 minutes. You not let me in,
mate. You've been on and off.
You didn't send me the link. The link didn't come on the iPad, so I'm on my phone. So I don't know what's
going
on. I'm having an absolute stinker, and that new microphone don't work.
You sound crystal clear.
Shake, we can still hear you.
It's 18 quid down the pan, isn't it?
Danny Graham, Cruncher.
Needs more testing.
Danny Graham, decent player, but I'm not going to say he's a journeyman, because he's not, because I looked at his record at Blackburn, it's very good, but he's 33, 34. We need to be looking younger. We've said this the last couple of weeks, signing someone who maybe from League Two. Peterborough, we keep bringing them up. They do it every single time. They'll get a striker in from probably someone we've never heard of. Like Ivan Toney he was at Newcastle. He got released. Now he's going to go for big bucks. Why do we have to keep fishing around for your Will Keanes, your Danny Grahams? I'd rather, I agree with Andy there. I'd rather play Falami or Morris. You've got them at the club. We said this last week. They're at the age now where they need to play. If they don't play, you get rid of them. Yeah. The squad's massively
just throw them in at the deep end.
Massively overinflated. We've got 44 professionals. 44.
Well, the question you've got to ask yourself is, what sort of role did our third striker play last year, Will Keane? He played about 18 games in total, in which how many of those were actual starting appearances, how many off the bench? If you haven't got good enough players coming through the youth team that can kind of contribute 18 games, 5 goals, there's got to be question marks about them, right? Because it's not many games. There ain't many goals. It's not a great return for a third striker.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I suppose they wanted to keep him around the place because he had that quality. He came through that, as we said earlier, he was that young Man United Player of the Year. He was head of Rashford in the pecking order until he got injured. So we know he's got that talent now. But as you sort of drift in and out of seasons, you're injured there. We've seen it with Emmy Hughes, haven't we? He just can't seem to get any level of good form back. And probably the same. It's probably the same for Keane. I mean, he went for big money to Hull, didn't he? When Phelan brought him in at Hull, he went for $1 million plus, I think. Yeah. So you can see he's got quality, but you don't see that quality in a run of games. It's like Nicky Forster when he comes to Ipswich. Only ever played consecutive matches. No good to us on the bench, is it? Or on the treatment table. Not now, anyway. Now we're in this new normal of the League One.
They're all players, Matt, who've been decent, but when they come to Ipswich, they're on the downward spiral. I'd rather sign someone.
Graham's on the downward spiral,
about players in the National League. It all comes down to your scouting. Your scouting's got to be better. Danny Graham, when I read that this morning, it was another really? Do we really want to go for a 34-year-old? And someone's just put on there for one season to get out of this joke league. We have to respect the league. It's not a joke league, I know we think that we shouldn't be in it, but we have to realise where we are at this point in time.
We're in it.
And we need to get out of it. And we need to have a little bit of forward thinking, I don't want to be signing these players for one season and then we go to the Championship, then we've got to start all over again. You need to have a little bit of forward planning. You can't keep going
and
around.
you don't, as you said,
He was
You
like
don't see
Keogh.
Peterborough signing, like you said, Rich. You don't see Peterborough signing these guys, do you? Peterborough wouldn't be in the market for Danny Graham, would they? There'd be
Richard
someone
Keogh.
who's been scoring goals in the conference or something.
When you see the Richard Keogh, what did that excite you? Is that another? He went to MK Dons. Look, it was. I think in the end, it was probably geography where he lived. But there's another one. Look, he's been a decent player. He's not going to be fit till November. What are we doing in the market for these type of players? Banter FC, Martin, as we said before. Banter FC.
Good grief. It's 8:10 on a Sunday night, and here we are getting all excited, ready for some Talking Town. And Rich is going more high pitched than I've ever heard him before. Are you feeling all right, Rich?
I've got a good drink anyway.
Good. That's what we come into now. So let's just move on to our beer review. What have we got? Well, it's not actually a beer, is it? I mean, you let the side down there instantly. What a waste of a banner that is.
Jack Daniels.
And as I'll jump in ahead of Steve here. What's in it? What's that water?
Where is he? Where is he?
He'll be around somewhere. He'll be around somewhere.
He's celebrating Arsenal's victory in the FA Cup final.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least they've won, son. And Mr. Phillips, what have we drinking this evening?
Well, I've not been able to, this is unpaid promotion. I've not been able to get to Harrods like normal. So I've had to go to this little shop called Aldi's, unpaid promotion. You might have heard of it. I don't know. This is one of their own ones. It's like their own Corona called Carista.
That's not bad stuff, actually.
Right.
That's not bad. Yeah, I had that inadvertently at the start of the week, and it was all right.
You never, Matt. You don't strike me as an Audi sort of person. He don't strike me as an Audi guy.
No, I've not been in there. I've not been. The missus has gone. I've not been in. Little shout out to every there, the Fighting Irish. Glenn's in the house tonight. Good top boy.
He certainly is.
What are you drinking, Martin?
I am drinking a beautiful blonde from Belgium. Of the name.
Your favourite.
Actually, it is certainly a favourite of mine. Yes, until Adnams get in touch with that paid promotion, and then it'll be Adnams all the way.
You look like you've been on holiday. You weren't breathing in that air all week, were you?
Well, I went north of the border. I went to Norfolk, darling. It was beautiful, actually. It was thoroughly enjoyable. Norfolk's got some lovely places. It's just the epicenter is the terrible part. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you just can't wear colours. You can't wear your colours there, can you? Nice place otherwise.
No, I know. And you've now got to bite your tongue a little bit when you see someone wearing a Norwich shirt. It's like, yeah, I just remembered when the third tier of English football having signed nobody.
Yeah.
But there we go. A quick mention, just because it's on my list here. Sore feet for the beat. Walk from Carlisle to Ipswich on September the 27th from Brunton Park. As you can see on the screen there, guys. Finishing at Portman Road, obviously a great cause. I will have the fundraising page on the description of this video. Not right this minute, so don't look at it now because it's not on there yet.
But it will be. So follow him on Twitter @saw_4. So that's @saw_4. He's doing it from the 27th till the 10th of October from Brunton Park to Portman Road. I know Malcolm. He's a really good guy, so let's get behind him and get following, get donating, and you can join him on the walk. I messaged him today. If anyone wants to join him, more than welcome.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a part. Hey, we can do that ourselves, couldn't we, boys? I mean, I can't technically walk. I mean, so that rules me out. But I can volunteer you two.
Yeah. Up for that, man?
I've got permanent sore feet. So, Matt, come on, and it's for a good. Come on, Matt.
I'll just donate. Matt. I'll just donate.
On that basis.
Come on, take off your boxing gloves.
No, on that basis, have some time out there, Matt. Think about your actions. Luke Penning, welcome to the show. Fan of the show, friend of the show, should I say? Luke Penning, welcome in. You have joined us at an ideal moment. We're looking for a new podcast member. Danny Graham, what are your thoughts on Mr. Graham there, Luke?
I can't agree with a lot of your thoughts, really. At 34, much like Keogh the other day, who's 33, there's no much look to a kind of forward-thinking, longer-term signing. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say this as well. Like they seem more focused about getting, some fans seem more focused about the club getting out of League One to the Championship. But if you look at teams like Sheffield United, I think their current centre backs were the ones that took them from League One to the Premier League. And if you put that same mindset onto the strikers, a 34-year-old, almost 35-year-old, is only realistically going to play a part for about a season, I'd say, before he tails off. Because you would think of it really, a striker of Graham's quality surely would have been the kind of guy that Blackburn need, that piece of experience, that sort of thing. So for him to be released kind of says a lot. But I still think that he'll do a good job at League One. Maybe because he's coming to the end of his career, he might be going for the Sunderland move, might appeal to him more, obviously with the location and that sort of thing. But much like what Matt said, it's not one that I wouldn't go for him personally.
Luke, do you think there's anything in here from Andy Gray over on Twitter? Thanks for the comment. Guys watching on Twitter, you can still get involved. Do you boys think there's anything in the fact that loan players very rarely return permanently? Obviously, if Garbett doesn't sign this week, that would be another left winger that hasn't signed. Where do you... What were your thoughts on Andy Gray's... is it the real Andy Gray? I don't know, but the Andy Gray's comments there regarding loan players.
Well, I think it's a lot of been like, if you think of it realistically, a lot of the loan signings that we had have been those on the cusp of kind of like high-end championship, like low to middle end. You think of Ryan Fraser when we had him on loan to where he is now. I think, I don't think that was realistic to think that we could have kept him. You could say the same with Selena, maybe. He got released by Man City. We were still in the championship at that point. Tom Lawrence as well. I think Garbett, for me, is the most realistic of loan signings that could potentially come here. I saw this whole thing online about the whole geographical, like the whole because of Everton's closer to Sunderland. If you actually look at it on Google Maps, there's only like an hour difference between Ipswich to Sunderland in terms of travelling if you're travelling by car. So I can't really see an issue in terms of like geography-wise. I read the EADT article the other day, and it was saying how, with Garbett more looking likely to go to Sunderland, it gives us a chance to look at different left-back options. And this is something that I'm pretty sure you've talked about on here before, and I talk about on Twitter quite a lot, is that Luke Garbett is not a left-back. The first game at Burton, he started at left midfield, and as a fan and as someone who's played close attention to him, he's much more effective further up the pitch, whether that be as a winger. Obviously, maybe due to our lack of wingers last season, we didn't really play many winger formations. Our main formation was a 3-4-1-2, which consisted of wing backs. So most of that season was spent of having Edwards at right back due to Vincent Young's injury, or right wing back, and then having Garbett at left wing back.
To be fair, Garbett, I know a lot of people are not big Miles Kenlock fans, but he played at the start of the season and Garbett played in front of him, and he done quite well there, didn't he?
At Burton, but Burton first game of the season, Garbett was at left midfield. And
I'm not saying Kenlock's the answer, but I agree with you there, Luke. Yeah. Luke Garbett. I think Oxford fans told us, didn't they, Martin, when we signed him, they didn't really rate him. He wasn't a left back. He's a lot more. He's better going forward, isn't he, than defending? Let's be fair.
Certainly so. And I think he'd much rather prefer to play further forward. Sid Driver here, he could make a fairly good point here, Sid. Regards to loans not returning, must come down to wages alone, as he doubts we pay the majority of wages. However, we do often pay a loan fee. Yeah, I've often said on this show that is putting bad money chasing bad money, basically, because surely every player you bring on loan with a loan fee, so for example, 3 left wingers, 3 loan fees, it probably would have cost that loan fee overall to bring a left winger in and have him here for 2-3 years and possibly sell him on. I know that in which parts of the internet you might find yourself in, you will have stories of Tom Lawrence being offered to town for small fees, such as 2 million is a fee over Ed. That would in return tenfold, wouldn't it? Really, let's be honest. So loan fee is it's such a minefield, but it's something that really annoys me because it's a sticking plaster over a gaping wound, right?
Yeah,
without a doubt. So if Town look at signings this week, not counting Luke Garbett, who's on the market still, Luke, that we should be looking out for?
It's a strange one, really, because it's like obviously with the whole kind of senior, like how many players we can have senior cap now. Anyway, it's a strange one. At left back, you think of people like, I think Andy Warren pointed out a couple, Jordan Obita, who is released by Redden. At that same time, you think of wages. Is he really going to come here with a salary cap in place that could affect him coming here? One I've pointed out is
Tyler Blackett, Luke. Someone was on about Tyler Blackett on Twitter, and they said what his wages were astronomical.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Tyler Blackett was.
I think though some of them now they're going to have to look at what they're asking for. You know, with what's happening.
Yeah,
they're going to have to be more realistic.
Yeah, with the salary cap, I think if you think of it in this way, like beforehand, teams like Ipswich would have pulling power over other teams in the division. With it being how it is now, we're on the same financial constraints as teams like Accrington and Stanley, for example. So in terms of bringing in the people like Tyler Blackett, makes it a bit harder. And I think he's more of a centre back. You look at people like loanees, Reece Norrington Davis, who was at Rochdale last season on loan, has tipped for a high future at Sheffield United. Maybe they'll go in for a loan move for someone. I've highlighted on my channel Tariq Holmes-Dennis, who played a part in Huddersfield's promotion to the Premier League, has been unlucky with injuries, which obviously is something that we'd like to recruit in terms of signings. But
that is the
kind of what we're going to be at in terms of signing people. We're not going to be signing those, championship high players. It might be the case of just signed in, someone that was released by a League One club. You've got players like was at Leeds a couple of seasons ago, but was released from Stevenage due to their relegation to the National League. People like Tyler Denton. There's a lot of players out there that play in the left back position, but it depends on. Obviously, we don't really know what Lambert's formation is going forward, and I would like to think that the signings that we bring in would suggest what it is. If we're going to play, if he said left back, for example, does that mean we're going to play wingers or that kind of thing? I don't know really, but there are a bundle of players out there. Same goes for centre backs as well. People like Ben Hennigan, who's still yet to move away. He was linked with Middlesbrough, I think. The same with Charlie Good that I mentioned on here the last time I was on here. But I think it's the one where, you're going to get in a lot of similar, I would kind of say the similar kind of ilk to people like James Wilson. I saw someone on my Twitter actually mention about us bringing in Corey Smith, a centre mid from Bristol City. And at the same time, is that really what we're going to be able to attract now with this salary cap? I don't know. I think as much as fans want to bring in the best players, obviously, to get us to the Championship, I think this will make us more and be realistic when, in the next couple of weeks, if we end up getting linked with someone or signing someone who's been released by a League One club or League Two. However, I am surprised that we haven't really ventured over to the Scottish leagues. A lot of teams, especially in our league, they signed a decent left back called Daniel Harvey, who used to play for Ayr. The Scottish league brings out a lot of good players that end up getting.
You look at Andy Robertson, Luke.
Yeah, Andy Robertson's
him, started at Queen of the South, so these players are out there. Our scouting's got to be a lot better. It's got to be a lot better. It really has.
That's the thing. It is a crazy one because I'm in the process of trying to get an interview with someone who will be able to help me out in terms of these kind of recruitment thing. Because as fans, none of us really know what the aim is. I put this out on Twitter the other day, but a lot of clubs saw Cambridge recently. They did a whole 7-minute video talking about what their plans are for recruitment, what the kind of players they want to bring in, what their style of players, that sort of thing. We haven't had a twinge about who's involved. I mentioned on this article that I did about a couple of months ago now that I found out from, I think it was the Kings of Anglia podcast, that Leo Neal was scouting in a youth tournament in Sweden, which obviously isn't his job. Like I feel sorry for him, because he's kind of doing the job as a technical director, someone that should be working behind the scenes, doing all the logistical stuff, kind of like the Ian Milne role. But now he's operating as this kind of director of football. Like I knew that we had Dave Bowman on the books, and I did hear that he was on gardening leave, but I'm not sure what's happening with that now. But I do think I would have expected, because they said a couple of months ago that they were identifying their targets. So I would have expected to see some come in You think of it in a logical sense. You've got pre-season friendlies coming up soon, and surely you want some of the signings in to bed in on these pre-season friendlies, because you don't want to go into the first game of the season, no matter who we play, and end up tinkering with the team.
Town do.
Yeah.
Town, without a doubt do. Town do every single year.
But that's the thing.
Every single year.
We want to be in that position. Well, I'd feel more comfortable in that position if we'd had signings in pre-season when the games start, integrate them in that way so there's an understanding. That way, when we start the season, we don't have to put that in. But in actuality, we are going to be in that position with how it's going. I know some people are saying on Twitter how there isn't really a worry because the window runs out in October. Well, the season will probably start in September time. September the 12th, I think, is the date that's penciled in.
Spot on, yeah.
You want players in beforehand to gel. We don't want a rotation policy whilst deals are being agreed. I saw him also saying about how the pandemic has made it harder for teams to bring players in.
Hasn't done for Bolton.
Bolton is in a unique situation in the fact that they released about 14 players, so they had to bring in a big bulk to fill the gap. But there are a lot of clubs that are signing players that have been since the window opened. So that whole, I don't know.
Norwich City being one.
Norwich one, even though they didn't furlough their players or staff, they still managed to bring in Kieran Dowell and people like that. Here's a strange situation.
But there we go. Right.
It's one of them things as well. After a bad season, you want a new signing in that will give positivity, make people feel.
Well, yeah. Definitely, and I think Garbett might bring that, and whether that remains to be seen, we don't know. We are going to cover the salary cap a bit later on in the show, but we've got to move on to our Paul Lambert review. So stick around in the blue room if you've got an opinion on on Paul Lambert. But thank you so much there. Thank you so much there, Luke.
That's all right.
Luke.
A real pleasure.
Hey,
always speaking with Luke. He's a good guy that knows his stuff. Before we do go to Paul Lambert, very quickly, what has got your goat this week, gentlemen? If I start with the cruncher in the middle, has anything got your goat this week?
No, I've had a happy week, mate. The sun's been shining. Just couldn't get my mic working. Maybe that was got my goat.
Yeah,
Other than that, it's still been good.
Matthew Phillips, what about you?
What's got
your goat, mate? Listen, come on, pay attention.
Things have always got my bloody goat. I tell you what's got my goat this week is Droylsden, a non-league team up in Greater Manchester, playing the Northern Premier League. They've been a victim of COVID-19. They won't be in a position to start their season. And what's got me goat is they're 1.5 miles away from Manchester City. And they used to host them at their grounds called the Butcher's Arms. They used to host their A-team, whatever it was, way back when.
Is it Man City's responsibility, though? Is it Man City's responsibility?
Can of worms there if you open that up, isn't it?
Say again.
Is it Man City's responsibility?
Well, the point I was going to make, I think Harry Kane is like sponsoring Orient this season. Why can't one of the Man City guys just lump some money to have it on their shirt? Do you know what I mean? Keep them playing. It's like being homeless on the doorstep of Buckingham Palace, isn't it? You've got two of the biggest clubs in the world, Man United and Man City, right on your doorstep.
Maybe this guy could have
got my goat a little bit. Look after your neighbours.
Okay, fair enough. I'll tell you what's got my goat. I'll tell you what's got my goat. You two. You two. Every time I open my phone, one of you two has started on somebody else or has made a made a comment about something silly, or has fed somebody or something they shouldn't have fed. I'm on holiday and my phone's vibrating like it's going out of bloody business.
You left us in charge. You said you're on holiday. We'll hold the fort. Yeah. What happened?
The fort burnt down.
You should be with the caretaker gaffers.
No, honestly,
made some changes.
That was making friends. That was making friends with the Twitter folk, wasn't it?
No, the hard truth.
Yeah,
all right,
they've unfollowed me since, but
hard truth might be all about it. All right, but the governor is a fair guy, and I'm telling you, no more. All right, enough. Calm yourselves down. That's what's got my goat.
The heat got to us. What can I say? You left us in charge, so we made some Cabinet changes.
I did, but I wanted to make sure people, heard what I had to say, because I often get pulled in, and nothing to do with me.
It's the same ones every time, isn't it? You put something up and they give their stupid little comments. We know who they are. We're not going to name check them.
Yeah.
They're watching Antiques Roadshow anyway tonight. They said
There we
they're
go.
big.
Right.
So they'll say they're watching
Moving
this.
on.
They'll be watching this.
Moving on, I have two things left on the agenda. Do you want to go with salary cap, in which I have gotten, I've done some thorough research and got myself mightily confused, or Paul Lambert? I think Paul Lambert first, personally.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul Lambert. Yeah. So, guys watching on YouTube, watching on Twitter, watching on Facebook, Paul Lambert comments, how would you review his year?
What do you think of Paul Lambert?
Would you give him a giant F? Or would you give him a giant A+? Now, what's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing is some fairly big Twitter accounts obviously getting involved in this, because they've got a lot to say about a lot of things, most notably Paul Lambert. So now's their chance to actually say it in a constructive way, say it in a forum that Town fans might listen. I don't know. I'm not telling you how to run your ship. Anyway, so
Rich,
there you go.
Rich, have you got your traffic light?
There's my sass. So,
I think my missus might put them away. No, they're not doing it. Don't worry. He doesn't need a traffic light, Lambert. He doesn't need it. It's a non-starter, though. He's not going nowhere. We could put the red traffic lights up. We know he's not going nowhere. We're stuck with him for the foreseeable. If you like that, or if you don't, one word rotation. Ben Moore, spot on. And in this season, we want signings. Look, we've discussed it. It gives you a bit of a boost if you get a couple of new faces in the door. Even if we don't get no signings in, this squad that we have should be more than capable of challenging at the top end of this division. It really should. And the buck stopped with the manager. I think it was Steve Lewis on Twitter. He said the same thing. It comes down to coaching. Coach your players to make them better. It's not that hard. Yeah. And if they can't do the job, get rid. I'm giving him 6 games. That's all I'm giving him at the start of the season. He should have gone at the end of the season. I got some stick after it was Lincoln away. I phoned up the radio and I said, I'm going to back him. We've just lost 5-3. Judge him at the end of the season. I got pelters for it. We don't want to become a sacking club like some of these other clubs, but there does have to be a time when you think enough is enough. Look, Marcus Evans is... I think sometimes he gives managers too long, doesn't he? He didn't give Paul Hurst too long. 14 games he was out on the year.
Yeah,
I'll tell you now, we would not be in any worse position now if he was still the manager. I'll tell you, 100%. Lambert's done nothing. PR Paul, when he came in, he could sell you a conservatory. Brilliant. He got us all back on board. As a manager, last season was an absolute shambles. It was. And him saying, it was a couple of months after January in his interview at the end of the season. No, it wasn't. It was from November. Don't pull the wool over our eyes and think that we're stupid, because we're not. We know what we're saying, don't we? We watch every week. It's up to him to pull his finger out. And if he doesn't, pull the trigger. We don't want to be.
I'm going to challenge that a little bit, though. I'm going to challenge that a little bit. Because a dressing room can be fractured and then lost completely. You could have had back-to-back relegations. I'm not saying Paul Hurst lost the dressing room. I'm not saying it necessarily would have ended up in that manner. But certainly there are certain things that come out of Portland Road that suggest that things were going in a direction that was not pretty. If your senior players have lost faith, who knows where that leads? Because yes, it's very easy to say you would have been in League One, but we could have easily slipped through 2 leagues.
We've discussed this before. The senior players have got too much of a say. Hurst come in and he tried to change things. Messrs Chambers and Scoot are still there now. They shouldn't be there. They should have been moved on, and they're still there now, like a bad smell, stinking out the place.
Well, especially now they're taking up our precious salary cap money.
Well, yes, yes, absolutely. Well, obviously, both have only got a 1-year deal, so both will be obviously gone when their salary cap goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, now the salary cap being introduced, it it does make question marks over Scuse's 1 year deal. No matter how cheaply you're paying him, will his production meet his value? I do not know. I do not know.
Brett McGavin. I'll give you Brett McGavin. That's all you need to know there. He should be the one who comes in.
If we jump to some of our fans of the show here, Ben Moore, need a formation to match players we have. Fair enough, fair point. Emerson Fairweather, Lambert needs a solid formation and settled match day squad and stick with it. Round pegs, round holes. Tom Riley, one of the best teams in the league, and didn't know his best team or formation in March. I think that's probably a fair comment. That is a fair comment there, Tom. A very fair one. I like the picture as well. Is that all we were holding hands in August?
That went well, didn't it?
It went fully well. We've Nick Muller,
German vibes.
Friend of the show. I don't want one of those keep sacking managers. Fair point. If I was to give Lambert not a traffic light but a grade, I'd probably give him a C. He's turned the club around in terms of off the field. You know, we are more engaged, we are more alive, we are more alert. He is right. When he arrived at that Borough game, which was on the TV, I believe, that was a graveyard. That was terrible. Now look at us all. We're all engaging. We've got new shows, podcasts, live shows coming out of every direction, which is fantastic. The more we've got, the better, because the more we talk about it, the more the light is shone. And when the light is shone, people see. And I wanted to get somewhere else with that, but I won't because of libel or slander. So Hurst wasn't the issue. The issue was Doig. I changed that list of off players that should have gone. Sore feet for the beat. He brought the fans back, had one line on radio. The fans are amazing. Can Emmy afford to sack him? Well, he had clauses in the deal, didn't he? We believe in the contract anyway, and he didn't. But I'd give him a C because he can do better. He must do better. But I just look at managers under Marcus Evans and I question, well, there's no success at all, which is very rare under almost every owner in football, that not one manager has had success. And then I question the second one of, well, who would do a lot better under the current restraints? There's not many out there. There's not many out, exactly. And this obviously salary cap, I know he voted against it. It does make it a little bit harder. Not impossible, but a bit harder. And I just don't know who would replace Lambert and give us what we're craving. So I don't want to defend him because it sounds like Lambert stick with Lamberts, but I just, as my wife said earlier, who would do a better job under the current restrictions? Look at this in this market. We've been so slow. You only need one or two players. Now you only need one or two players. They are special players to put you over the top. That's a very small fraction of the market. You know that market. Go and get them. Why have we deliberated and possibly cost ourselves or more cap change? There's no answer to that other than budget restraint, right? I don't know. Tell me.
Well, we've just been dragging our heels again, haven't we? We've just been dragging our heels again. It's just typical Ipswich. We always seem to make signings late, I think. Always seems to be the way. I can only presume he's been waiting to see who he can get on the loan market from the Premier League, as he did with Agaba, knowing that maybe the salary cap was coming and all that kind of thing. Maybe he's going to go to that loan market, but I don't know. It's a funny one. It's a frustrating one. But I thought Lambert would do a really good job at Ipswich when he arrived. I mean, look at the job he did at Norwich. I know someone who knows Lambert really well, and he was like waxing lyrical. He's going to get you promoted when you've gone down into the League One. You'll probably go up as champions. So it's just been a massive dud for me. Really disappointing.
He has been. You're absolutely right. And the rotation has got to stop, full stop. He knows that. But then again,
will it?
As I was
will it? You're going to have 12 or 13 midweek games. EFL trophy games, let's just forget about that. Look, is he going to stick to a lot? Look, we can all make a couple of changes here and there, but you need to keep your core of your team. You don't need 5 and 6 changes every single week. Stick to a formation. Stick to a settled goalkeeper. That's where I think a goalkeeper and a back four playing together every week, and then cricket.
Did you play cricket this week, Cruncher?
No, I binned it off because the show's more important. I had to be back in time, didn't I?
That's why I put it up there, you see.
And then I couldn't get online. So that went well, didn't it?
Do you not feel there's a little bit of a I don't know. Fans having it both ways. One minute the fans are telling everybody that the squad is fantastic, it's amazing. Lambert has failed, it's brilliant, it's the best squad in the world. It should do this, should do that. And then in the next breath, we are all reacting with alarm and over the top tweets, etc., regards to no transfers. Either the squad is very good and doesn't need a lot, if any, and Lambert failed, or Lambert rotated because the squad actually wasn't that great. Which is it?
Well, the squad is good. The squad is good. We saw that across August and September, didn't we? But for whatever reason, this has not been addressed. Why did they go into relegation form for every single month after that, other than January?
Yes,
it
true.
Makes no sense to me. We're not.
Yeah,
we're not in the Championship. We're not in the Premier League. We're a big fish in League One. We were in relegation. We in our very first podcast, we showed everyone what the points were per month, didn't we? Remember?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
but
we did.
Look, we were doing well, but we never beat a top 6 team all season, did we?
No.
We beat the rubbish who we shouldn't be beating. But when it comes to them big games, I don't know, is it players? Is it manager?
Eddie Howe?
It's probably... I'd have Eddie Howe. I'd have him tomorrow. He's not going to come to Ipswich, is he? Let's be realistic.
Yeah, he's not going to come to League One.
You'd take them, wouldn't you?
You would. Well,
yeah,
you would.
I mean, I don't like the style of football, but yeah, I think you probably would.
I don't know.
I feel like.
Go on.
Go on, Mark.
No, it's your show.
I just feel like. I mean, I was watching the Lambert interview. Oh, thanks. I feel like watching Lambert's interview this week. I feel like his time is done. He's had his go. I don't know. He just doesn't have that energy. I think back to the first game he had in charge. What was it, Preston? And he was out. I put it on Twitter this week. He was at whirling dervish in the dugout, wasn't he? Arms flailing, getting the ball, chucking it back in. Let's get that throw in quickly. I've just not seen that same person. You know, I saw a bit of it last season, but he
seems downtrodden, doesn't he?
These interviews where he's yeah, I mean, he's dour anyway. He's always had that reputation, I think, publicly to the media. I think he's always had that. I think he's a different person behind the scenes. We said it before. We saw him on that Scottish League podcast. Kind of a different person away from the cameras and the mainstream media. But I don't know. He just needs to have a bit more of bring some energy, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? We've hardly heard from him in 6 months. I've seen one interview with the club since March, which was this week. And then the one with, what's his name? Mark Murphy on BBC Suffolk. That's it. He's gone to ground level than that.
Well, he's gone to work. He's got, and I think you'll see a bit of that return because I think when he's backed against the wall, I think he will certainly come out a bit more guns blazing. And I think the year you're talking, like last year, he was guns blazing, wasn't he? I mean, look at, I know Norwich away, some see as perhaps a PR stunt, but he was certainly up for the battle at Norwich and at other games. I just don't know because
that's the last time we saw him in that character, I'd say.
Yeah. 2 years ago, we probably would have all sat here and said, Paul Hurst, yeah, great, come in, brilliant. Got Shrewsbury playing the right way of football. The problem is the budget because
I thought
Paul Hurst arrived, but when Paul Hurst arrived, to implement his style of play, he had to bring in players that we didn't have at the club, or he felt we didn't have at the club, to incorporate the style of play. So I'm talking Nolan, NCR, etc. But there was no budget there to bring those players in. So you had to sell your players. Now, at any club, the only players that are normally sold are normally the better players because they're the reason why they're sold. So if Cowley comes in, have we got players at our club to suit the Cowley way of playing football? And if we haven't, where's the money coming from to bring those players in? Because it won't be provided for as part of the welcome gift. So
I do think the downturn started when we lost
in the situation.
Yeah, I think the downturn started when we lost Kane Vincent-Young. I think he was obviously quite key to how Lambert wanted to play and press forward. Whether or not another manager, I would imagine any manager would utilise Kane Vincent-Young 100%. It's a fantastic player.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know, what do you think, Rich? What do you think, Rich?
Before we move on to salary cap.
Vincent-Young was a massive way that we played, wasn't he? In a massive part. I think he only played 9 games, didn't he? Was it 9 games? So
yeah, it was 9. Yeah.
To say one person goes out your team, and it's a bit of a poor excuse, isn't it? Are we a one-man team then?
Yeah.
Are we a one-man team?
Yeah, maybe.
We can't be.
Yeah.
We can't be. But the squad we have, if if he doesn't add anyone,
I
I think he'll probably add
any...
one or he'll probably add one or two. But it should. I still say it should be good enough to challenge in this league. I want someone to come out, Paul Lambert, come out and say the aim this season is we're going to win the league. You know, I know that's a bold statement, but that's what we should be saying.
Well, Leo
really
Neal
should.
He'll never say that. He'll never say that because he doesn't want it to come and bite him on the backside.
But Leo Neal and Lambert, do they ever speak? Because they always contradict each other.
I like that.
They do.
I like that. I like that.
Changing the goalie every week never helps.
I don't think he would have done had Norris done it earlier. But there we go. So that's the Lambert review. We've got 2 reds. We've got a C, which is kind of an amber, I suppose. But it's only an amber because I don't know who would come in under this budget restraint and work any different, really.
He has to be. He has to be the luckiest man in the world because COVID's come along and saved his job. Just look at Juventus. They've got rid of Sarri. He just won Scudetto for Juventus. He's been given the elbow because they didn't progress in the Champions League.
Yeah, we're talking about that's happened.
Lambert's taken us from the top of the table. He's taken us to the top of the table to 11th.
Yeah, but equally, we've got to look at ourselves.
He's the worst Ipswich manager since. He's the worst Ipswich manager since Jackie Millwall, who is like notoriously the worst Ipswich manager, replaced Alf Ramsey, I think. Got us relegated.
The thing that makes
great player, terrible manager.
The thing that makes me laugh a little bit is when we all call each other toxic, right? Every player that ends up leaving here ends up saying what a lovely place it is, how the fans don't really get on the players' back, compared to other clubs. And you're just, it's not toxic to call people to account. And I think you both made fairly decent points. But let's move on. Daniel Barnard makes a fantastic point, which I will get on the screen. Should have got Neil Warnock when he left Cardiff. But I don't know if Warnock would have...
No, he's 71. He's 71 for crying out loud.
Still going. He's got another year in him at Middlesbrough.
So, salary cap, gentlemen.
He's always got another year in him.
Salary cap confusion. And it is confusion, okay, because I've been doing some... I'm an NFL fan, all right? Disclaimer, NFL fan. And as a result, I'm a bit of a salary cap nerd when it comes to the NFL. So I'm kind of bringing my salary cap nerdiness over to this. And I've been looking at it all weekend. I spent some time Friday in the Norfolk sea air looking at it. And I tell you what, it's mightily confusing. You can't read it. You can't read the same report like the BBC, EADT, TWTD, the Portsmouth Echo, the Sunderland Mercury. They all say different things, right? So if the press and then the club come along with their club website and say a completely different thing. So if they're all saying different things, there's going to be so much grey area for clubs who are ambitious and determined, very similar to the early days of FFP, to just gently, edge ever so closer into those grey areas and then say, wasn't clear, didn't know, we thought this. One of the key areas is the 5% rule. Okay, so you're allowed a 5% runoff. I've read several reports that have said that is upon a fine. I've read several reports that have also said that's a 5% runoff without a fine. Over 5%, you'll then get fined. So if I'm reading 12 reports and it's half and half, clubs themselves are going to say, again, grey area, bonuses. The club on the website say bonuses are included. But on the EFL site, they say bonuses are not included. So I could pay Luke Garbett £5 million to get Town promoted. It wouldn't be counted as part of a salary cap. So, but the club say it will be. So,
a lot of confusion.
Yeah, basically, it's been. This was rushed through quicker than the season was decided, which is a fantastic point made by our friends at Blue Monday, Joe Fairs. I will, concede that was not me who made that first point. But it's mightily confusing. But here is the breakdown. Okay, so your allocation spend majority goes to your defense. You've got 7. So I'm getting to American defense. You've got 7. You've got 7 defenders counting against this cap. Which obviously anyone who plays fantasy football will know. You do not win games with your defense, do you?
Yeah.
Did you message me earlier and say Barry Cotter's included in it?
He certainly is.
Yeah.
Yep. When I read that, I have to admit I did.
The lesser-sighted Barry.
I did choke on a poppadom. I will admit. When I read it, I was like, "What?" Barry Cotter, Aaron Drinan is counting on it, right?
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for Harry Wright because he's counting. Okay, so we've now officially got our second senior goalkeeper. Okay, we've got 2 senior goalkeepers, both against the cap. That's it. No more goalkeepers. No more talk of goalkeepers. Put it to bed. But I feel sorry for Harry Wright because next year he's out of contract. He could go into next season without a club, okay, having played maybe 5 games this year, none the year before, and be a senior player to other clubs. His wage demands will have to be really low to even get a club. Whereas Prizebeck has got an additional year or 2 because he was born in 2000. Because they're not counting the 99 year. It's this sort of thing that I can't see the Players Association going for, because you're hurting wages, so you're hurting growth, people earning money, but also it's ageist because James Wilson next year out of contract, is he going to get a club?
Doubt it.
It's a mighty confusing thing. But any questions, get them in the comment section. Luke Garbett is possible because based on several reports, we've got anything ranging from $2,000 to $6,000 available a week. What calculation the club are going on, I don't know. But what's important to me is this, right? We're spending about 2.1 on our salary cap this year. Okay. Next year, when we've got 14 players out of contracts, we're going to have a 1.5 million cap relief. So we have 1.5 million to spend because all those players are out of contract, right? It's the inflexibility of this cap that's confusing me. Because, for example, Luke Garbett, if we said to Luke Garbett, look, Luke, this year we're going to pay you $2,000, but from next year I can pay you $12,000 a year. As a club, if I'm still under my salary cap, why can't I give that sort of deal? Because next year I'll know Luke Garbett's on $12,000 a year, and I'll just know to plan around that, right? Like, is that something clubs can do? Can they backload contracts?
There's too many grey areas, isn't there? It's so confusing.
I have no idea.
Nor have I.
I think I personally think the whole thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, fire, shoot.
I don't. The EFL basically tagged this up as being a salary cap vote to everyone, but we all know that they might as well have just said, "Listen, we're going to put this forward. Do you want to hamstring Sunderland, Pompey, Ipswich, and bring them down to your spending level?" No one's going to vote and say no. They're all going to vote yes, aren't they? So we've been kind of I just feel affronted that we've been dragged down to the likes of Crewe, Accrington, Wimbledon, that level. It's kind of crazy. Look, it's like basically going to a bunch of Turkey. It's like going to
these clubs. They'll be happy because when Ipswich are in town, we take about 2,000. We're putting more money into these clubs, aren't we? But now we're on the same level as them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I saw a Sunderland forum saying, well, should we now boycott going to the away games at Accrington and all these teams that have voted for this? I mean, the Football League have basically gone to a bunch of turkeys and said, do you want to cancel Christmas? And everyone's gone, yes, please.
But as a player,
it's ridiculous.
I'd be saying, where's the money going? Because if the owners are getting richer off my talent, why am I not able to get richer off it as well? Because the
ceiling is going to be what? The most you can earn is 113 grand, isn't it? Is that right?
That's the league average, isn't it, at the moment? But you can earn.
But then
you
the
anything.
championship teams will just cherry pick all the best talent now, won't they?
Yeah,
they'll all disappear.
I would average a guess that if I was a player, I would be looking at some sort of industrial action, because if my club can afford to pay me X, Y, or Z, and you're telling me I can't, that's fine. But then when the money comes back into the club's pockets for gate receipts, for example, if I'm fantastic at my job and I pack the stadium out, 30,000 people, where's that money going? It ain't coming in my pocket, but you're getting rich off my talent.
Yeah, but if you're a bit, you'd say Marcus would be happy with that, wouldn't you? Or more money going in his pocket.
Well, maybe so. But if I was a PFA agent, this is what I'd be saying, and I'm not an advocate for them. But I would be, any union in the world would be saying the same thing, right? When profits go up at any company, there's always a union saying, well, we want more money. That would be the same here, right?
So what about, is there going to be a cap in the championship? Is it 18 million they're saying?
Well, they've got a vote on
it,
it.
but it's not come yet, has it?
No, they've got a vote
But
on
look,
it.
I think we're moving soon. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a Premier League 2. League 1, League 2 will just get left behind. We'll be in the also rans. But I think this season, it's imperative we get out this season. If we don't get out this season, we could be stuck in League 1 for a very, very long time.
Well, this is it. And this is also where I bring back my original point about clubs being brave, because obviously if you work out promotion is £9 million, if you do get fined on the first 5%, for example, well, that's how much of that is going to be a fine, because it's not 5% of 2.5 million is not a great amount of money for every pound that you're over. So even if it's like 500% of a fine, you're still looking at, let's say, under £1 million, right? Well, the year Luton
got fined if you over.
Go on.
I thought you got fined. I thought you got fined £3 in every pound that you were over.
Well, that's a completely different report that I've not yet read, and that'll be the 17th edition, chapter 2, because because as I said, several outlets have said no fine for the first 5. Other outlets have said fined for every pound you're over in the first 5.
Yeah, I read that.
But the point is, if the year Luton went up, if they were docked, let's say 12 points, right, they would have finished 6th. Well, one playoff semi-final at £30 a head, at half that fine, if it's £1 million, for example, which would be around 500% of the fine. So again, as with FFP and QPR in the early days, remember those days? It's going to be brave. It's going to be brave clubs that gamble, that the EFL will tiptoe into this, as opposed to here's X, Y, or Z, points here, points there. It's going to be braveness. Have Town got it?
You'd imagine the vote in the championship. You'd imagine the vote in the championship is going to be much closer. So I think it was 16-8, 16-7, and one club didn't vote in League 1. But it's stupid to have a vote in League 1 because the big clubs are, in a minority. So the smaller clubs are always going to win out. If they can bring us down to their level with a democratic vote, they're always going to win out. Ipswich, Sunderland, Pompey cannot win. And that model is completely different to how the Premier League started, which was the top 5 clubs saying we want something different. We're in a position where we're never going to win in this league.
It's a bit like when ITV Digital. Do you remember when that all collapsed and we were in the wrong division then?
Yeah.
We're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we'll come back. There's only one reason why we're in this league, and it is the owner. Nobody else.
I will put a little asterisk there, Rich, because we're not the only club in this mess. If we're facing a wage cap crisis, imagine what a top League 2 team with their star player is facing. They're less. So now's the time maybe to go and cherry pick a League 2 star because you can pay him more money. Yeah.
Totally agree.
Again, it's going to be down to recruitment, which obviously is Luke Penning's bag. It's going to be down to braveness. It's going to be down to a lot of things, but I don't know if Town have got it, and there's a lot to come out yet. And I do genuinely think, because of the way it's been brought in, if it goes ahead, which I don't think it will with the Players Association, I think it's going to be so much grey area that any QC worth their pennies, they're going to just say, well, that could mean that could mean this, that could mean the sky is red. You're going to wipe the floor of the EFL.
There's no doubt to me that they've rushed this through over what happened with Bury. And I think they were probably working on it when Bury went to ground. And then because of COVID and everything, and people have had issues, and they've seen that teams couldn't complete the season, they've kind of rushed it through. Hence, you've got all these grey areas. I think the EFL have been useless for years, really. They've paled in comparison to the Premier League. I would actually like to see the tier we have in football at the moment actually managed by the Premier League. Maybe it will go down that route at some point.
And the thing is,
you've got all that money at the top end of the game. The EFL don't bring any money into the game particularly because they haven't got the global appeal. But
the thing is, I'm just going to say, if you're Andy Holt at Acton Stanley, you are happy this evening because your club is now on a level with Ipswich Town.
Well, yeah. This is the joke.
And because you're Ipswich Town, you've got an under-23 squad because you've got an academy. So you've got to have these players like Barry Cotter, like Aaron Drinnan, that fall in that gap now, that now cost you. Whereas maybe clubs such, further down the pyramid don't have those restrictions. So now have a bit more money than Town. Crazy. How they're going to fund that money doesn't come into it still.
And we're all independent. The clubs are all independent businesses. So why should Fleetwood, Wimbledon, Accrington, Andy Holt, and all that tell Marcus Evans how he should run his business? It's a restraint of trade, isn't it? It's not like the American model. You were talking about American sports earlier, where the New York Yankees sell a cap and we all get a little portion of that pie.
League revenue, league revenue.
Businesses. Marcus Evans wants to spend what he wants on wages. He should be able to.
Absolutely.
Down to all these other little tin pot clubs with their 2,000 average each week. Telling us what we should be bloody doing.
The Americans is all about league revenue, right? It's all about we're only as strong as our smallest club. Yeah. So we're all going to make ourselves on a level playing field. But in football, it's completely different. There's relegation, there's promotions. We've come down. We've got a bloated squad. We've got a lot more wages going on because we can afford it. We've got 9,000 season ticket holders. Some clubs don't get 9,000 full stop. Come on.
It's crazy.
Look at Bournemouth, for example. Bournemouth went down. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You had Sunderland averaging 30,000 in League One last year, and you had Accrington around 2,000, and now they're on the same level in what they pay their players. It's a joke.
They're laughing, aren't they? They're laughing at them.
Joke.
They're laughing, these little teams, because they think.
I just hope that. I agree. And by the way, if you're Accrington, you could still, you might not be able to spend you might not be able to afford 2.5 million on your players. So you could still go over in theory. You could still be above your means with 2.5 being the ceiling. I just think it's laughable. Yeah. I just hope the PFA thing goes through and it gets stopped. And, I think football should be sustainable. And I think it should be percentage of turnover, which is what Darren McAntony put towards the EFL.
But didn't he vote for the cap?
We still got to do our player of the year, but
didn't he vote for the cap? I think Matt's frozen. I think Matt's got too excited. I think Matt's got far too excited. I'll just remove him until he waves at me in the bottom. I didn't. Do you know how they voted? Because I thought I read that McAntony.
I think they were going to vote for the cap, weren't they?
Which would be, that's interesting.
Podcast,
but I was going to ask both of you, but I'll ask yourself now. Once I see Matt wave at me, I'll throw him back. Oh, is he coming back? Did I didn't do that. Wow, that's a button they've found. Oh no. Flynn Downs, does the club have to sell him now? Doesn't count against the cap. Transfer fee can't really be invested because, you can pay a huge fee, but you can't pay the bloke's salary. So does Flynn Downs have to be sold now?
Go on, Matt.
He's pulling a charade.
Sorry, I was breaking up a little bit. Should Downs be sold?
Yep.
Was that a question? Should Downs be sold now? Well, we don't need to,
yes,
do we?
It was. No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Does he now need to be sold?
I'm breaking up. My internet's not so good.
Oh, okay, no problem. That's all right.
Probably from a financial point of view, maybe not as the League One cap stands at the moment, but he might have had his head turned now. He might want to go to. He probably has had his head turned, but he wants to go to Palace. But he wants to be in the Premier League.
Well, every player will have their head turned now, even by
talking of Palace. Talking of Palace, for every £1 million they get in, they spend 700 grand on wages. So there's a team that's not particularly sustainable, even at the top level. But
there you go. Okay, player of the year. Player of the year. I wasn't going to cancel this vote because, quite frankly, but I'll let you have one vote each. Go for it. Who's your player of the year?
Well, I think Matt's going to agree with me. He's been subject of his agent. Is he going to sign a new contract? For me, he had a great season. He scored 11 goals, 7 assists. And my player of the year last season would be Caden Jackson. And I know a lot of people wouldn't agree. They'd say Flynn Downs. Flynn had a very good season, but I think Jackson was our outstanding player.
Okay, well there we go.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I think he was really good. Would we be without his goals? Scored 3 match winners. I think it was Fleetwood, Tranmere, Wimbledon.
IFC.
He could have been even further down the table without his goals. Just give a shout out to Daniel Blowers on Facebook who said he went for Adrian Paz. Or was it Vicky? Said Chambers. Mike Brown said the fans. Should have been the fans. Should have been the fans.
Vicky's always perving over Chambers, so that doesn't count.
You've not heard my one yet.
Go on.
Well, it's got to be one man, isn't it? A man that's often flame-proof, comes through anything smelling of roses, is always there when you need him. Mr. Cole Skews.
You actually said that, keeping a straight face as well, didn't you?
It's my gambling.
That is why he's got another year deal. The governor's player of the year.
Well, it isn't the genes, you know.
Fair enough.
I told my dad, you got to sign up Cole for another year, and he said, fine, yeah, fair play, we'll do it. But there we go. But yeah, that's my one. And we'll end on that one, I think, because we've overrun the hour.
Yeah, we're into
salary cap madness. Those that know me will know my true feelings on what I've just said, but those that don't, yeah, I was joking. Yeah, I was joking. My player of the year has to be the fans. I think Mike's right. Yeah, spot on. We sat through a lot. Well, I think player of the year every year. Then again, player of the year could have been Bart. I mean, you know, who else could play up to a £1 million? Or was it £1 million we got from him in the end? You know, a player like Bart now would have been gold dust because his contract would have been at the league average. 113 grand a year.
He's gone. Get over it.
I can't. All right. Anyway,
fact, Bart, quick one. Maybe the fact Bart kept winning player of the year was a signpost of what was to come.
Maybe
it kept being the goalkeeper.
Anyway, right. Okie dokie. So we return next week, my friends, with more ITFC news and banter. The place to be, really. I'm off for a little bit of a boogie, a little bit of a sit down, a little bit of a calm down. I don't know. I was going to go somewhere with there, but you know what? They're just not worth it. I will leave the last word to you two.
Be good.
He's gone. He's gone already.
Great.
My internet's all over the shop.
Be a good boy, Matt. Be a good boy this week, please.
I want to give a shout out.